Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're making something really special and I just couldn't wait to get started. So, a bit of story time. I went to my local woodworking hobby store on the weekend and I found this stunning slab of wood. It was only small, but it was such a good price, like only 35 bucks. So instinctively I bought it with no plans on what to do with it. Then days later, I was sitting on the couch editing my latest video, which you should check it out if you haven't already. I'll link it on the screen. Anyway, that was when it dawned on me that I should make a new end table for my couch, somewhere to set drinks and stuff like that. I already have one, but it's something I built a long time ago and could definitely do with an upgrade. And then I thought to myself, the slab that I just bought would be perfect for that. So without any plans, I just went straight out into my garage slash workshop and I got started. I wanted to build this table from scratch, so that meant I needed to make some legs, and that's where I started. I don't have any hella fancy tools, just all like that entry level stuff. I mean, yes, I have more tools in my garage than the guy next door, but I highly doubt he does what I like to do. So what I'm getting at is I don't have a whole lot of options in regards to the legs since I wanted to build them myself and I'm not a master woodworker by any means, and I also don't want to spend any money on new tools or materials. So I'm just going to go with two rectangles, bringing in a bit of modern to the rawness of the slab. But as basic as these legs will be, I will at least miter all the corners to bring in a small element of difficulty. I had a very specific height I wanted this table to be, which was 56.5 centimeters tall. This would mean the slab or tabletop will sit just above the arm of my couch and it'll kind of like spill over onto my couch. I'll throw in a clip of my current end table to give you a rough idea of what I mean. But this also means I won't be centering the legs. I'll be installing them slightly to one side, so that way the top will be able to spill over onto my couch. I'm sorry if that sounds confusing, but once we get to the end, you'll understand better what I'm trying to do. I'll be relying on glue for these joints since I don't want to send any nails or screws through the miters. It'll just make it look a lot more refined and professional too, not having screws or nails visible. A little while ago, I managed to score some free wood from Facebook Marketplace. I jump on there weekly and see if anyone's giving away some wood. And if I feel like I could use it for something, then I try my luck at snapping it up. The wood I'm using for these legs, I honestly have no idea what it is, but it's some type of hardwood because this stuff is rock solid. So I assume that it'll be perfect for the legs because the slab isn't that heavy, but I do have a toddler running around and definitely don't want to risk this table falling over. So if once I'm done I feel like it's not sturdy enough, then I'll do something about it then. But for now, I'm gonna hope that these work. Would you just look at how beautiful this slab of wood is? When I saw it at the store, I just couldn't say no. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I knew there would be something special I could create with this. And here we are now making an end table. When you buy a raw slab like this, it has a lot of bark and unstable wood in the knots, so first I have to clean that up. I'm using a chisel to get off the bulk of it, and then I'm going in with a brass wire brush to refine it. I found this process so satisfying, like watching all the bark peel away was so good. I don't know if it's just me or if there's other people out there like me, but I find the tedious jobs the most rewarding. Like, I could sit there for hours trying to get paint out of wood grain and it wouldn't bother me in the slightest. Those are the parts of the project I actually enjoy the most. Maybe I'm weird. Does anyone else like doing those types of jobs, or am I alone? Getting all the rot out of these knots was also super satisfying to me. A couple of the knots went all the way through to the other side of the slab, which is going to look so cool once we get to the next step. Can you guess what that is? If you guessed epoxy, then you are 100% correct. But before we get there, there's still a couple of things left to do. I will save you guys the pain of watching me sand this slab for 30 minutes straight, and I'll condense it down to just a few seconds. Sanding honestly sucks, and I don't care who you are, but if you actually enjoy sanding, then you're probably a psycho. Just saying. And with that over with, it brings us to the fun stuff. This is the epoxy I'm using. It's nothing special or fancy, it's just some basic art resin. I've used it in the past and does the job, so thought we'd use it again. I just add equal parts A and B, mix that stuff like crazy, and we are good to go. I started by painting on the epoxy to all the edges. This will act as a sealer and help prevent any bubbles when I do the pour to fill the holes and the cracks. After that, I go in with a very thin coat over the whole slab so it can penetrate into the wood. And once I had finished this step, I came out every 15 minutes or so for the next hour just to pop any bubbles, which there wasn't a lot since it was such a thin coat, but I was just being cautious. It's the next morning now, and yes, I'm still in my pajamas. Don't y'all be judging me. Now that the seal coat of the epoxy has dried, I'm going to attach some of these sheets to the underside of the slab. I cover them in tape as well, and hopefully this will prevent the epoxy from leaking out all over the place and sticking to the sheet. I'm just attaching it with some super glue so it'll be easy to get off once the epoxy has cured. I decided to go with clear so I will be able to see through the slab. This is pretty risky because any bubbles that get trapped will be very visible. So it's super important now that I come out every 15 minutes for the next 2 to 3 hours and pop all the bubbles that rise to the surface. Otherwise, these holes will be a bubbly mess and nobody wants that. Ideally, I would like it to look like glass. I know it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try my best to get it as good as I can. So just keeping onto it now is key. I could and probably should pour this in multiple layers over time, but I don't have the patience for that. So balls to the wall we go. If it has bubbles, then it has bubbles. This table is for me, so perfection isn't 100% necessary. If I was to sell this, then I absolutely would be doing these pours over time, but I'm not, so I'm not. So I have a lot of time to kill now that we have to wait for the epoxy to cure. So I'm circling back to finish the legs. I'm using a stain in the colour Walnut. This wood is already really dark, so this colour really didn't do much, to be honest. And this stain is new to me. I've used it a couple of times and so far I absolutely hate it. Like, the colour is fine, but just the application of this stuff, in my opinion, is terrible. You've got about 4 seconds to wipe this stuff before it leaves like really dark marks. So I really need to be precise and careful when I'm using this particular stain, and it can get pretty annoying. The stain I usually use doesn't do this, but I ran out on my last project and I haven't been to the store yet to get any more. And I had this stuff, so I thought I may as well use it. But every time I do, I always regret it. So I really should just bin it at this point because it's crap. I let the stain dry and then went in with a coat of hard wax oil. This is the second time I'm using this finish, and so far I actually really like this one. I think it's what I'll be using from now on. I put on a generous coat and let it soak in, and after a while I'll come back to buff off any of the excess. And then I set the legs aside because they are now ready for install. And here's a quick peek of how the epoxy is going. If I'm honest, it's not great. There are thousands of little micro bubbles in one of the holes. This could have easily been avoided if I just had some patience and did the multiple pours, but I can't help myself and it's really coming back to bite me now. But honestly, it's not a huge deal. All the other holes are looking really good with little to no bubbles, so I really can't be too mad about it. And now it's the next day and we can finally get this table finished. To start, I have to flip the table on its underside so we can take off the plastic sheets. I was crossing my fingers that this wouldn't be hard, and thankfully they both came off pretty easily. On that first hole, I used some silicone to hold the sheet in place, and it really wasn't a good idea because I must have used too much and the silicone seeped into the hole and it created a void. But to be honest, it's not a massive problem since this is the underside of the table and this particular crack isn't visible from the top, so I did get lucky there. Sanding the top of the table is where I really need to pay attention, spend the time and put in the effort. So I started with 120 grit to get off all the excess epoxy, and then the grind started. For the finishing of the tabletop, I went in with 180, 240, 320, 400, and 600. I had to run to the hardware store since the highest grit I had was 600, and I wanted to at least go to 12 on the epoxy portion. They didn't end up having anything that would fit my orbital sander, so I had to get some sheets and go in by hand for these last two grits. I made some sanding blocks with some scrap wood that I had. I thought doing it this way would be much easier, and indeed it was. I do apologize, it gets a little bit jumpy here, but I started to apply some stain to the tabletop, but I ended up hating the colour, so I sanded it off and sanded the sides while I was at it, and then came in with a much more rich brown, which I ended up loving. Alright, and with the stain on and dry, I can move on to attaching these legs. We are so close to the finish line now, and I feel like because I had to wait so long for the epoxy to cure and the countless hours of sanding, it made this project feel like it would never end. But to attach the legs, I pre-drilled some holes and used a countersink bit to sink the heads so they won't be visible. And now for the finishing touches. I'm just applying some hard wax oil to the tabletop and I let that dry overnight. If you guys are still with me, I appreciate your patience. This video was a long one. I also want to give a quick thanks for all the love and support as I grow my channel. I'm slowly creeping up on 1,000 subs and I would love it if you could help me get there. So if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, hit subscribe. I've got loads more projects in the works and I can't wait to share them with you. And with that, here is the final result.